So the next step in our process is deploying this model. So we have trained the model, we have evaluated the model, we tested the model. Now it is ready for deployment. So what does deployment means? It should be have an endpoint where any other applications or any APIs can invoke this model and run the predictions. So once the model is trained and validated, the next step is putting it to use. That's what we call deployment. It means you are moving your model out of notebooks and into a real world where it can score incoming data or support decision making or automate predictions. This could be real time, for example, scoring loan application the moment it's submitted, or it could be batch based, such as generating churn score for all customers every night. So deployment can happen through an API endpoint that apps can query, but in our case, we'll be using SageMaker endpoints to deploy the model. Once the model is deployed, you will have a SageMaker endpoint. Then you can use either Lambda function to invoke the model, and then you can also front end the model with Lambda with API gateway, so that any other external applications can also invoke the model using that endpoint. So model deployment is just an upload and forget. It comes with a set of challenges you need to plan for. For instance, can the model handle traffic spikes? Are you logging predictions for later auditing? What happens when you need to deploy a new version of the model? You also need to watch for a data drift. If your model was trained on a 2 years back data, it may poorly perform in 2025 unless you monitor. For example, uh, you might not have an option of mobile payment sometime 2 years back. Now you are having mobile payment option, so a lot of your payment type feature in your data will be a mobile payment option, mobile wallet payment option. That means the feature which your model not hasn't seen it before, so it might impact your predictions. So tools like SageMaker endpoint will actually help you to deploy the model to endpoint, and then it can be invoked using either any other API. So the key idea is a successful machine learning project isn't just about great models. It's about how robust, secure, and observable our deployment is. So deploying model, either again you can go back to a notebook, the code they're given, or you can also using the SageMaker Studio endpoint. So once you have trained the models, you can actually go to this models. It will show you all the register model and all deployable models. So the model which we have trained here is available here. You can click on here. This is a model, and then it shows you the model path and everything. All you can do is you can click on deploy here. You can choose the instance type, how you want, what is instance count, what is the maximum instance count, whether you want a real-time inference or a batch, because it's an endpoint, it's a real-time inference. And then you can choose the model over here, how many CPUs you want to have, number of copies, like what is the memory and any other environment variables you want to pass. And also here about your IAM role. If you want to run this model in a very isolated network base, you don't so want to expose this model, then you can also enable network isolation and choose the VPs and everything, and your encryption, and click on deploy. So it takes time to deploy this model. So I have already deployed this model in advance. So once the model is deployed, you can go to the deployments here. In the deployments, you can notice the endpoint. So this is the endpoint for your model. So either you can test the model here directly, or you can also create a lambda function where you can test a model, and also you can have this auto scaling and everything, so that if at all you want to scale the model. So what I have done is I created a simple lambda function here. This lambda function I configured as endpoint name and interface component as as a environment variables. It is very simple. It just takes this endpoint name, it passes a CSV file, it checks the prediction. If this greater than the threshold, which is say 50.5, it says that the churn is yes, otherwise churn is no. So then I can do a simple testing here. I have already configured the data which I am passing to this as a test. So I click on the test here. Now it is executing the model. Now I got a response, prediction churn as no. That means this customer is not going to churn because the prediction is only 0.14. So because it is below the threshold, so the model is saying this customer is not going to churn. Okay, so this is about deploying the models, and then you have got multiple deployment options, whether you can do the batch inference or you can do a serverless deployment also available. So in this, for the sake of this demo, I'm showing a SageMaker endpoint real-time deployment where you can real-time you can invoke the model and then get the response.